What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Mist Podcast. I am your host, Aeromist, coming at you with another topic today. We're going to talk about emotions, but not in the emotional intelligence way, but we're going to talk about emotions more in the aspect that emotions are a delusionary system that is inside of our whole existence, that is the way we are manipulated or are diluting our perception or distorting our perception on the things that we observe and intake. Because emotions, unless they are tuned within you and you're attuned to your emotions, meaning that you know what does and does not get your emotions and how to keep yourself seclusive underneath a parameter of not feeling before thinking, meaning you're keeping your conscious part of your emotions at the forefront before you ever even feel the emotions to begin with. And this does take another level of energetic control, per se, and an understanding of your emotions, how things do affect you, your reactions, whatever. Emotions have a storage inside of the body themselves. Your water has memory, and the memory imposed inside of your body itself is not just based on the water you drink and the food you eat, but it also is based on the emotions that you have, the way you react when you are emotional, and then knowing how delusionary the emotions make your reality and your existence. And finding this practicality is then understanding that emotions can be a complete distortion pedal as to why we perceive certain things, because the way you feel is real, but it also is something that is dynamic and can change. And I think many people do not understand this, and that's why it seems like emotions are just that much more concrete than thoughts, because the thoughts seem like they're so fleeting and that they're not as real as the emotions, because you can feel this thing or something so deeply. But that's kind of the whole point, is that you are able to feel anything. And you're a chemical being in a chemical body, and those emotions release chemicals. You can control your chemicals. You can rearrange and reimagine your chemicals in a way of you being able to feel emotions and dictate the entire progressional point of your reality and your existence in a way that is unreplicatable when you're doing the opposite. AI living off of unconscious emotional endeavors and being emotional and enacting in emotional things and letting it behold and take your reality in your control. And this is part of why food keeps a hold of people, because that is something that makes you emotional and adequates to your emotions. Just like how what you think, what you take into your ears, what you watch, these things that affect your emotions. Why are the emotions such a pinnacle point? And how almost everything in reality is trying to take you on its roller coaster, on its experience, and take you away, or take you on a journey that is not the experience that is purely out of the humanistic experience, is because your emotions are the entire point of what sits with you deeper than anything else. And it's a very big part of why most of us have lived a life where we had to figure out things away from our emotions to be able to understand what's actually happening. Because if you remain completely emotional with no logic, the logic is embedded then in what you emotionally feel or you emotionally think, instead of the logic of what actually is there, meaning you're diluting yourself away from truth, seeing and understanding what is actually going on. And then that is where the blindness and the blinding of human civilization has come from, of all these other things presented in front of most of us that are trying to get us to feel emotions and be emotional. Go scroll TikTok. What is it trying to do? Influence your emotions. It is trying to purposefully, emotionally take you on a roller coaster. And if you do not have the resilience behind things grabbing your emotion, then it'll happen. If you want another good example to see where you're at with your own emotions, go play a game like VR Chat. Go get on VR Chat and go join random lobbies and talk to people. Why? Because this is a social gathering place now, where you also are behind a screen, so you're more subjected to feel emotions, but you're also subjected at the same time to see how you're reacting to what you get. Because if you start talking to somebody and they just start striking a nerve with you for some reason, and you just start reacting emotionally, then that's how easy it is for you to be manipulated from your emotional state. And that's also how distorted your reality is, because someone that you don't know, that you probably have talked to for less than 30 minutes, is already taking you on an emotional roller coaster. Another good example is the video games in general. If you get emotional playing video games, then you are easily manipulated by your own emotions, and you have a distorted form of reality, because it is easy for you to get taken on an emotional roller coaster when you care about something, meaning that you don't have control over your own emotions, even when you do care about something, no matter what it is. And then that is why some people build this delusion when they play video games of like, oh, I suck, or like, oh, I'm just not good at the game, bro, or like, why can't I just be good, bro? Like, everyone's so much better than me. And then then think about how you just take that exact same ideology into your own life. You're just literally reenacting your existence inside of the game that you're playing. And so just think about it, right? Like, you're already painting in this tailoring point of like, if you are emotional behind something, then you are ingrained in the emotions being the forefront of your existence. And if you can't keep a consistency when you are doing something, and something can easily emotionally take you on a roller coaster, then you don't have control of your emotions, and you are easily under the influence of things that can take your energy. And the whole point of me saying this is that you have to understand how powerful you are, and how powerful it is to get your energy back into your hands, because your emotions are the entire reason why anything on this entire planet is manipulated against its will, without it even knowing that it is, right? I don't want to go down the whole rabbit hole of talking about how modern day slavery is basically the enslavement of emotions, because that's pretty much what's happening, right? That's the whole reason why the TikTok algorithm was successful as an algorithm, was because it is a tailoring off of emotions and only emotions. If it wasn't for the emotional part of it, you would have no reason to care. What do you remember? Not what you think about people, but what you feel about people and how people made you feel, right? So just understanding the depth of how important your feelings are and what you feel, but also knowing that those feelings are a dynamic sense of change, and they are changeable regardless of what is going on. And sometimes that's kind of where like your logic and the frontal cortex is what is going to break you out of that, because you have to lean into expanding your consciousness here and away from your animalistic instincts, because that's technically what animals also live by, is only their emotions, their instincts. And your instincts are a part of your emotions, right? Because if you feel this deep feeling of like not wanting to be here anymore, but then you wonder why you can't do it, and it's because you're just living off of instinct in two different ways. One, your survival instincts are kicked in, but because you're living in a fight or flight of survival, you're already almost living in this ideology to your own distortion that things will end, and that, you know, you're living on this tail. You're still just living in fight or flight. That's already where the negativity in itself is coming from, because those in fight or flight in old human history were also in the same point where they didn't know what the fuck was going to happen next, and they were fearful or afraid of it. But now that we live in a different world, and you're still enacting off of those same clockworks that are built into you from a different period, this is why, once again, emotions are the whole point of breaking you back down into treating you like an animal. And that's why, if you look around, it's almost like we're treated like cattle. And the more and more that time exceeds to progress, that's just going to be more and more of the case, unless we do not let ourselves be emotionally manipulated. And when we are emotionally manipulated underneath a point of, and this is something that we do to ourselves over time, we don't see, but we have to see. You have to understand how important the emotions are. Not just understanding your emotions and what you feel, but understanding that you live in a dynamic range of being able to feel emotions, and that you don't have to live in a self-destructive point of view. Why do we have all these problems with mental illness? Because people are uneducated about their emotions, and then also because people are treated as if their emotions don't matter. So if you don't make your emotions matter, and you don't begin to understand your emotions, then you will just live in this world where people can tailor you around left and right. And that's not saying in your immediate world people do that to you. I'm talking about in the grand corporate scheme of the whole way the world is designed, that they will take you and you are not thinking for yourself because you're too busy feeling. And when you're too busy using your energy to feel and be emotional, you're not thinking. You're not taking yourself away from fight or flight and being able to sit there and create a world and be able to do things that you're supposed to be doing for yourself because it's a part of how you're also designed, is just to be able to think. You have a brain for a reason. You can think. Anybody can think. Now, depending on what you use those thoughts for is entirely up to you, but generally anyone can think. And that's why all of this stuff is designed to make you feel, because if you're too busy feeling, you're not busy thinking. And if you're not busy thinking, then you're also not understanding your reality more and more. You're not doing things that are actually more beneficial for you rather than doing things that are not beneficial for you. And it's like living in this cyclic clocked loop that has been established since all of us came out of the womb, but it's been the tailoring point of the rest of this whole world and how it's continued to connotate. And so if you don't get a hold of your emotions, something else has a hold of your emotions against your will. Anything it is, the food you eat, the way that you talk and interact with people, and how people can take your emotions, regardless of whether you want to be honest about that. And that's another thing, is that the emotion part of the whole equation becomes the dilution on how people then tell themselves what is or is not giving them emotions or is making them emotional, and then putting it in a different place. And then now you kind of see why we live in a world that has a blanketed form of distortion instead of re-adequating ourselves away from that distortion and reestablishing what is a consistent point of truth. And that has to only be established through the scope of the individual perceiver. Because if you're not perceiving your own emotions, like I can perceive the prospect of other people's emotions anyway, but if I'm not going to understand that prospect of my own and what takes my energy, especially knowing how important emotions are for taking a hold of my energy, then you're going to live on someone else's clock. If you don't think for yourself, someone's thinking for you. If you're not feeling for yourself, someone's feeling for you. That's how this world is this exchange of you either do for you or something does for you, right? Because things and everything moves no matter what. So this is a pointed conversation to look at anyone listening, and to let you know that you need to take a hold of your emotions. Understand your emotions and what they are. All of the emotions you can feel, not just the ones you're addicted to and the ones that you're accustomed to or that you're familiar with, all of the emotions. And then realize that all of them are the same level of dynamicism, that you can feel any of them. You can feel happy as much as you can feel sad. Just because you felt more sad than you have happy does not mean that you have to live only by the sadness. That's not how anything is. Nothing is true until you make it true to you, right? Including how you want to feel. This is a choice. Happiness is a pure choice. Joy and enjoying your experience. And sometimes we do have a roller coaster down where we feel negative things and all that kind of stuff. But at least if you're aware while you're feeling something and you know what's getting it, then you can move past it, because emotions are just like the thoughts that can be a wave. And yeah, you can feel something at a temporary point, and that's fine. Knowing what it is and then also knowing what you do with it and what's getting it from you is the whole pros of the conversation. Know what gets your emotions, why it's tailoring your emotions, if it is, and then put it back in your hands, right? So that at least whenever you're feeling, it's not something that's just taking you on the roller coaster. You're the one clicking the start and stop button, and you're looking at the roller coaster as it's moving, right? You're not the one being taken on it. And that's kind of the whole point, is that you could understand you are the one who starts the roller coaster to begin with, or you can stay on the roller coaster and it keeps moving without anyone over there going to hit start or stop. But you have the choice to put your emotions back into your hands. No one has to have it from you. Nobody has, if you tell yourself something has to be or does not have to be some way, then you're literally telling yourself a delusional truth. A truth that only is true to you. So remember that your emotions do the same thing to you. They tell you a delusional truth. They tell you a truth that is not the truth, but they're formatting it to a point to accommodatively tell you that this is the truth, even though it's not the truth, right? Because in your own form of delusions, you find a practicality, and then you look at other people and you're like, how the fuck do they do that? How is that real to them? You begin to not be able to understand other people because you're not understanding yourself, and just coming to the point where, okay, other people have a logic that may not be my logic, but there's a reason why that logic is still logical to them, even if it is still at a point illogical. So does that mean I'm also building a point of illogical rationality in my own ideology? Or am I building something that actually is practical and not based out of a separate influence? Am I being influenced, and am I influencing myself, or am I being tailored around, by what has always been given to me. And it is never too late for the awakening and awokenness of anyone of their own self and their own consciousness to happen. You can at any point sit with yourself, take away your distractions, close your eyes, not going to sleep, and you can sit there and you can think. And you can come to the conclusion and have the focus point of making these at the forefront of your comprehension in your mind and what you're going to be going through inside of your consciousness and formatting through. Right? And that's the whole point, is if you start thinking and you stop feeling, then you actually can understand why you felt in the first place and you can get somewhere. But the emotions will keep you in a place of constant tug and pull, tug of war, every single way, unless you become aware of them. You understand them, and then you know what gets your emotions, and you bring that back into your hands. I don't have to feel like this because of that. I don't have to feel this way because I don't have to. I don't. And so don't. So bring it into your hands and feel how you want to feel. Ask yourself how you want to feel. I want to live peaceful. Well, if something isn't accommodating your peace, it's got to go. That's your choice. Am I gonna get rid of this? Am I gonna get rid of that? Am I gonna cut those people off? Am I gonna go to this place instead and move? What are you gonna do? So put it in your hands and realize you have to make the choice and the decision, and then be aware of the emotions and how powerful they are. But you're the power. You're the powerhouse that fluctuates the power. So put the power back into your hands. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. Be aware. Be aware of your emotions. Take control of them. Bring them back into your hands. And think on them. Really think on them. Use yourself as an experiment and be aware. Go be in a social setting and see how the emotion, how easily people get or don't get your emotions. Are you statured? Are you stable? Are you get your own proof and go from there. No one else can dignify this for you except for you. And if you're not willing to understand, comprehend, and learn, you probably weren't meant to hear this anyway. So, and I say comprehend and learn on your emotions and taking that route, then I'm sure you clicked on this video because that's why you're going after that information. So, thank you guys for watching. All links in the description if you want to go check me out. Arrowmist.xyz is the website. I got music, got all that other good stuff going. I'm trying to get all these done. So if you have any other suggestions, topics, something you want to throw at me to talk about, all my DMs are open on all my social medias. Toss me an idea, toss me a topic, let me know what's good, and I will cover it if I can make it applicable to how I can talk about something. So once again, thank you guys for tuning into the Mist Podcast, and I will catch you on the next one.